This will probably be the last section that we'll have dealing with solving algebra equations, at least at this point, especially until you get into more higher level math. But what we're going to focus on today are problems that have division bars in them. So like this problem right here, you've got a division bar right here. We've done simpler problems like this, like for instance this problem right here, where we talked about doing the opposite. Since it's dividing by 4, we can just multiply by 4 on this side and our answer would be 80, because 80 divided by 4 is 20. We're going to get a little bit more complicated than that in these problems that we'll do today. First one we'll look at is d over 2 equals 3d minus 20. The goal that you're going to have to do to start with is we want to get rid of this because we want it to look like just a straight across problem like any of the other solving problems that we've done. And to do that, it's really not that difficult, but you really have to get into the root of what you're actually doing by doing the opposite. So for instance, right here, what we're going to do is to get rid of this divide by 2, we're going to do the opposite and multiply everything by 2. So over here it's really easy to multiply by 2. So that's going to be 6d minus 40. But then we have to figure out, what do I do with this? And I'm going to put this off to the side. Here's how this works. If we have 2 over, or d over 2 and I want to multiply by 2, because it's the opposite. Right now it's divided by 2. Multiplying by 2, since we have a fraction, is just like doing 2 over 1. So if I multiply this across, I have 2d over 2, and then my 2's are going to divide and cancel out. So I could do this divided by this. Now all I'm left with is d. So now my problem looks like this. D equals, and I can get rid of this now because I already did my multiplication, d equals 6d minus 40. Now you can just do your problem solving process like you've done. I'm going to want to subtract 6d here, and I can subtract 6d here, which is going to be negative 5d equals negative 40. And then if you have to and you don't know what this is, I can always do negative 40 divided by negative 5 to get my final solution. But I can probably just look at this and say negative 5 times what is going to be negative 40 should be 8. So D is going to be 8 in this situation. So once we get it like this, it's exactly the same as what we did before. We just had to do this extra multiplying step in order to make that happen. Pretty similar problem here, except for now we've got this division bar, but we've actually got a number on top. And this really isn't that much more difficult. It's just maybe one extra step. So what I want to start with is, I've got this identified as divide by 4. And I want to get rid of that, so I have to do the opposite, so I've got to do multiply by 4. So I can do that pretty easily. If I multiply this by 4 and I multiply this by 4, it's going to be 20r, and then it's going to be minus whatever 119 times 4 is. I'm just using my calculator quick here. 476 equals. Now on the other side, we're going to have to multiply everything by 4 also. So how this is going to look is, it's going to be 3r over 4 times 4, which is in a fraction form 4 over 1. So if I do this problem, 3r times 4 is 12r over 4. Now I just need to divide out anything I can, and I can divide 12 divided by 4. I can simplify it down. So if I do 12 divided by 4, I'm going to get 3. And really it's almost like reducing fractions. It's really like 3 over 1. But 3 over 1 is the same thing as 3 wholes. So this is just going to be 3r equals 20r minus 476. Now I go through my problem solving process. I'm going to minus 20r, subtract 20r, negative 17r equals negative 476. Now here I don't have a clue what this is going to, I mean I can probably estimate it, but I don't really know what it is, so I'm just going to make sure that I know what problem I'm doing first. In order to cancel this out, I'm going to divide by negative 17. That's going to cancel that out and just leave me with r. And then I'm also going to divide by negative 17 here. And again, I'm just going to use my calculator. Negative 476 divided by 17. I know it's going to be a positive because it's a negative divided by a negative, and it ends up being 28. So R equals 28. And remember, if you're unsure, we can always take this 28 and put it back into the original problem for R. So for instance, if we take our original problem and I do 3 times 28 divided by 4, that's going to be the same thing as 5 times 28 minus 19. That's a good way to check it over and prove that it's correct. Okay, we've got one more similar problem here that we did last time. I identified my division right here. It's divide by 3, meaning I want to do the opposite. I've got to times everything by 3. So this would be multiplying this by 3, multiplying this by 3, multiplying this by 3. So I've got plus 18 equals 9b minus, that'd be 129. Now I've got this. I'm just going to do this off to the side so you can see 2b divided by 3. Remember, I'm multiplying by 3, which is the same thing as 3 over 1. If I do this, I get 6b over 3. Simplify this. 6 divided by 3 is 2, so it's just 2b. Now I've got to do an extra step here to make this work. I'm going to put all my regular numbers, how about on this side? So I'll just do subtract 18, and that's going to be negative 139, 149, 147. Negative 147. I still have my 9b here equals 2b. Let's get this on this side. So we will subtract 9b, that would cancel out. So now I have negative 7b equals negative 147. And again, I'm just going to do this problem on a calculator quick, but what it is, I am dividing by negative 7. To cancel that out, I am dividing by negative 7, and it's going to be positive because it's dividing two negatives, and I get 21. So b equals 21. And again, if I wanted to make sure I was right, I could come up here and do 2 times 21 divided by 3 plus 6, and whatever I got there should be the same thing as 3 times 21 minus 43. Alright, now we're going to get to a little bit trickier problems here, okay, but not too bad really. Same thing, I'm going to identify what my division bar is here. It's divided by 3, so my opposite's going to be times by 3. Times 3 times 3 times 3. 24 equals 6y minus 39 plus. Off to the side, I'm going to do this problem. Y plus 2 over 3. And remember, I'm going to be multiplying everything by 3. So what I'm actually going to be doing here, this is like times 3 over 1. I have to multiply everything on top by 3. So that's going to be 3 times y, which is 3y, 3 times 2, which is 6, and then 3 times your 1 would be 3. Now I can start to divide everything by 3 and start canceling out here. That's just going to be y. And then if I do 6 divided by 3, that's going to be 2. So my problem looks like y plus 2 plus 24 equals 6y minus 39. So I'll start by combining like terms. 26 plus y equals 6y minus 39. I'll put all the numbers, how about on this side, would probably work. So I will do subtract 26, and that's going to be 50 plus 15, which is going to be negative 65. And we still have our 6y equals y. Now we'll go ahead and get this over on this side. Minus 6y, canceling out. Minus 5y equals negative 65. Again, if you don't know this, I can always just do negative 65 divided by negative 5 and get my answer. I know this is going to be 13 though, so it's going to be y equals 13. Negative divided by negative is a positive. There's our answer. So this wasn't any different than what we did before. We just had to do this next step and almost do distributive property here, where we multiplied everything on top by 3. This was still the same, times 3 times 3 times 3. But we had to multiply everything on top by 3 here. One more of these tougher problems before we go to the 2 examples that I'm going to have you try on your own. Identify what we're dividing by. It looks like 4. So I'm going to need to multiply everything by 4. Times 4 times 4 times 4. So that would be minus 16 equals, that's a multiplication symbol, negative 2r times 4 is negative 8r. 60 times 4, 6 times 4 is 24, so that's going to be 240. And then I need to, off to the side, I'm going to do this part just somewhere else. I think it's easier just to kind of put it off to the side. 3r plus 3 over 4. So we're multiplying everything by 4. Everything here has to be multiplied by 4. The 3r and the 3. So that's going to get me 12r plus 12 over 4. Now everything also has to be divided by 4 here to cancel things out. So 12 divided by 4 is going to be 3. 12 divided by 4 is going to be 3. So I've got 3r plus 3 and then the rest of it here. Combining like terms, I can combine these two numbers together. So that's going to be minus 13 plus 3r equals negative 8r plus 240. I'm going to get all my regular numbers over to this side. So since I have a negative 13, the opposite would be plus 13. We'll add a 13 over here, and I get 253. I'm going to run out of room here. So let me shrink this down a little bit. So now it looks like I've got 253 plus negative 8r equals, and we still have that 3r on that side. So now I need to get that negative 8 off to the other side. So I will add 8r, 11r equals 253. I don't know what that would be, so I'm just going to divide it out on my calculator. 253 divided by 11 equals 23. So r in this case equals 23. There's your solution. Here are the 2 problems that I would like to have you try on your own. This is basically like one of those first ones where it's a little bit simpler. You're going to have to multiply everything by 8, but then when you get to this part, you're only going to have to multiply this by 8. Down here, you've got this divided by 5, so remember, times 5 times 5 times 5, and then multiply everything here by 5. So that's going to be 2 times 5, 4 times 5, then you should be able to simplify. Why don't you give it a try and then start the next video to check and see how you did.